Good morning, Zio here, and today we are going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and how Jornos are turning against it because of crunch. I'm so tired of talking about crunch. Anyway, we're going to talk about it though, so grab yourself some coffee, sit back, relax, and let's get into it, shall we? But yeah, The Last of Us Part 2, as we can see, it's still sitting at a 5.7 for the user score. People aren't exactly happy with it. We've talked about it before in the past. We talked about the Sony DMCAs. We talked about, the Naughty Dog DMCAs, whatever you want to call it, where things were being DMCA'd when they were talking about these leaks, even when they weren't showing said leaks, and all this other stuff, when people realized that The Last of Us Part 2 was going to be, I guess, the subversive mess where, a certain character was going to get killed off in the first few hours of it. A very well-loved character is going to be beaten in with a 9-iron or whatever, and then you're going to be forced to play as the person who did this act for a good 10 or so hours worth of said game, and as the game attempts to, I guess, humanize this person in a way to make it look like that you are the bad person in all this because you're destroying their life and their stuff and their things when, they are the ones who actually came after you first. Well, I mean, technically, if you add in the DLC from the first... Anyway, it's complicated. Point is, people weren't very happy with it, right? And, I said it back then, I'll say it again, this game was going to win awards, right? When the Game Awards come around, it was going to get, Game of the Year and all this other stuff guaranteed because journalists loved it, right? They praised it, and if you talked ill of it, well, you're a white something another that is, misogynistic, whatever, add buzzword 15,000 times, after that until you get something somewhat non-cohesive, and claim that everybody is that, right? I mean, you can still see the Metacritic score here. This is on the PS4, of course, where it's got a 93 from, the critic reviews and stuff. But, some of the critic reviews were kind of critical of it. If you actually look at some of the lower ones, if I remember correctly. But let's go down. Everybody gave it a 100 for the most part. All the big names, because... Yeah, apparently when a game somehow is always a 100. But let's come all the way down here. But here you go. We've got the 70s, and then I guess people who didn't actually finish their reviews. But you've got a few 70s in here from other locations, like IGN Japan and other stuff. So pretty much locations that are outside the sphere of the big companies like Kotaku and Polygon and Game Rants and things like that. But yeah, The Last of Us Part 2 did win some awards. It won quite a few. Game of the Year, Performance, Audio Design, Narrative, Action Adventure, Studio Game Director, Anticipated Games, Performance, Art Direction, Score, Soundtrack. And some of those, of course, I think are a bit really debatable, like Game of the Year. Totally not Game of the Year. Wasn't the best action adventure game either. It was, however, probably one of the biggest anticipated games besides Cyberpunk 2077, which did not get to launch before the Game Awards, so it was not included in the Game Awards. But then again, its launch has been kind of disastrous as well. Not as bad as this, because this one didn't have the glitches and stuff, but Cyberpunk 27, so that's a whole other thing. But game journals are finally turning on The Last of Us Part 2. They're actually sort of giving us their actual takes on it, and most of it boils down to crunch. They're unhappy with crunch because nobody understands what crunch is, because these people apparently have never actually worked a service job in their life. And haven't had deadlines to meet or anything else like that. They just write their piece, send it off, and it gets posted. And, but hey, what do I know? It's not like I've just been in the service industry for years or anything who actually deals with crunch on a daily basis, and it sucks. And if there's a way to get out of doing crunch, definitely worth it. But some companies do take crunch to a whole new level, like, for instance, Naughty Dog. And that is something to be discussed. Something, on the other hand, of CD Projekt Red, their version of crunch this last time, not exactly what I would call a major faux pas or anything that you really need to discuss. Ooh, they worked an extra 8 hours a week. Were made to anyway. Not the biggest thing in the world for a few months to do that, or a month or weeks or whatever it happened to have been. I think it was 6 weeks, or maybe it was a full 2 months, because they did push the game back another 2 or couple of weeks as well. So yeah, come back to me when you've worked over about a year now on crunch time straight. Then we can talk about that. But yeah, there are companies out there who do that, like Naughty Dog and a few others. There have been reports of them working crunch hours for 4 years straight, and that is something to actually talk about. That should have something we should talk about and discuss. Maybe there's something we can do. But journalists are starting to turn on The Last of Us Part 2 now. They're not happy with it, especially apparently the best direction thing, because of crunch. But they're just not very happy about it, and a few articles have come up, and I've of course brought this one, which is Kotaku, one of the ones who was right there behind Sony and everything, going out after people, going, it's okay for them to DMCA stuff and all this other things because reasons. But yeah, so that's a thing that has happened. It's won several awards. Journalists are starting to turn their back on it. The game, in my opinion, isn't that great. It really isn't. I don't own it, but I did play it at a friend's, because if I don't own it, he usually does, which happens a lot. So, I went over there and I played that. But they finished this thing off with this quote from some guy, Fanbyte podcast, Jordan Mallory, something like that. But apparently his quote is, I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less. And I'm not kidding. And I just have to disagree with that, honestly. I do not want that. I want good games, regardless of graphics and stuff like that, but just good games. I don't want shorter games. I don't necessarily want longer games. I want good games for what they are. So, if you give me an RPG, I want a good RPG that I can sink a ton of hours into, whether it's 70-some hours or something into an RPG, but I want it good. I want a good story. I want good mechanics. I want good stuff going on there. It doesn't have to be the best graphics in the world. I think a lot of The Last of Us Part 2 had to deal with probably its graphics, the way they were going about doing things and coding all that, more than anything. But, a game doesn't have to look completely realistic for me to want to play it. I'm good with 32-bit graphics or something, or more old-style retro type of thing. I just want a good game. And, of course, not necessarily have to be paid more for less work either. You should get paid adequately for the work that you do. I don't think there should be we should be propping up somebody because, for whatever reasons or whatnot, allowing them to be paid more for doing less work or anything. I mean, that would be the dream, of course, but I think, if you get paid, you should be paid adequately for the work that you have done, not less or more as a result. And, there is some things to talk about when it comes to certain developers paying certain things, because, like I said, there are some developers, especially here in the US side, where they crunch for a very, very long time. They put their people on salary or something, so they get paid that, and then they're forced to work very long hours and not get things like overtime and stuff. If you're going to put somebody on salary, I think the workload should be nothing. It shouldn't be majorly overbearing on the person like that, because if you're going to have something that requires a lot more work to that, maybe they should be paid hourly and then get overtime when they hit that 40-hour mark, if that's what you're going to do, to fairly compensate them, of course. And then, way bonuses and stuff are done, of course, need to be talked about as well. But anyway, I think that's all I got for that. I just wanted to ramble about it for a second. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.